Bona tarda. És un plaer donar-vos la benvinguda en nom del Col·legi d'Arquitectes en aquesta fita vinculada al Dia Internacional de la Dona. I tenim aquí dos grans arquitectes, Anna Heringer, Dominique Gauzin-Muller. Crec que millor representades les arquitectes avui no podíem estar. És una fita important i sobretot perquè ho fem de la mà de la col·laboració de diferents entitats, l'Institut francès, que ens acompanya amb la Valérie, l'Institut Goethe, amb Joaquim, i també amb la Fundació Mies van der Rohe, que hem coordinat en el marc de la Capital Mundial de l'Arquitectura, aquesta jornada conjunta que ens van acompanyar les ponents ahir al pavelló, en aquest espai màgic, però avui també volíem una mica seguir aprofitant aquest primer viatge de l'Anna a Barcelona, que confiem que no sigui l'últim, i sobretot perquè volem començar a reforçar aquestes línies de treball conjunt que ens permetin fer xarxa entre diferents moviments a nivell internacional, la sostenibilitat, la descarbonització, la frugalitat. Al final són conceptes que ens interpel·len en un moment en el qual tenim una consciència de la dificultat de materials, d'aquest planeta limitat que tenim, i la terra aquí jo crec que és un dels grans protagonistes, la construcció amb terra, però no des d'una mirada nostàlgica cap al passat, sinó mirant cap al futur, des d'una manera poètica, artística, des de la bellesa, però també des del rigor, de la tècnica i del que el segle XXI ens permet aportar als avenços de tot el que coneixem, però sense perdre aquesta essència d'aquest material que el tenim a prop i que d'alguna manera ens permet tancar el cicle de la circularitat amb tota la naturalitat com s'ha fet durant milers i milers d'anys. De fet, la Terra la tenim ja des de Mesopotàmia, des de les primeres cultures primitives, amb diferents solucions constructives. Jo no vull entrar en tot el que seria la frugalitat feliç i creativa, que és la traducció de la frugalité heureuse et créative, c'est un moviment de la France, i crec que ens fa molta il·lusió, gràcies a la Valérie, portem ja més d'un any col·laborant amb conferències que hem fet a l'Institut francès, debats, anem aprenent d'aquest concepte i sobretot ja estem treballant juntes. Tenim aquí unes publicacions que s'han treballat, que són molt interessants, sobretot a nivell de cada regió, identificar quina és la identitat, quina és l'arquitectura que respon al lloc, a la cultura, i que les tenim a la biblioteca i que també a la llibreria La Capell, que és la millor llibreria que tenim, aquesta cooperativa d'arquitectes i de les millors llibreries que tenim a Europa, on trobareu tot de publicacions vinculades a la frugalitat i a tot el que avui es presenta. Vull presentar molt breument Dominique Gauzin-Muller, és arquitecta, investigadora, cofundadora del moviment per una frugalitat feliç i creativa, d'una trajectòria de 25 publicacions i professora a la Càtedra UNESCO d'Arquitectures de Terra, Cultures Constructives i Desenvolupament Sostenible. Ha estat una veu clau en la consolidació d'aquest moviment, arrel que sobretot ja s'ha extès a tota França i que ara s'està treballant a Suïssa, a Bèlgica, i Catalunya i Balears. També estem aquí ja entrant en tota aquesta expansió d'aquest moviment. I vull destacar també Anna Heringer, que avui ens acompanya, és arquitecta de referència internacional en l'àmbit de l'arquitectura ètica, ecològica i socialment compromesa. Per ella, l'arquitectura és abans que res una eina per millorar la vida de les persones i per tots nosaltres, evidentment, però en els seus discursos sempre posa això en boca i crec que és important destacar-ho. Com els llibres també parlen, també estan contents que estigui aquí amb nosaltres l'Anna. Estan aplaudint. La seva trajectòria ha estat molt compromesa a Bangladesh, a Marroc, però a moltíssims països, com ara ens explicarà. Volem destacar també la seva trajectòria, el Premi Aga Khan Foundation d'Arquitectura el 2007, però també molts projectes, el Obel Howard, el Global Howard for Sustainable Architecture, Emergency Architecture Awards del 2006-2008, el Web Fellowship de la Universitat de Harvard i el RIBA. Jo crec que realment has trencat el sostre, aquesta arquitectura potser a vegades que és més invisible, perquè moltes vegades has treballat amb els invisibles, però has aconseguit amb el gran nivell de qualitat arquitectònica fer-los visibles, no només les persones per qui treballes, sinó tot el col·lectiu d'arquitectes que treballen en aquest àmbit de la cooperació internacional, i has fet exposicions en llocs tan importants com el MoMA de Nova York, a la Victoria Albert Museum de Londres, a la Bienal d'Arquitectura de Venècia i fa pocs anys, el 2022, a la Fundació ICO de Madrid. Un honor que per sort puguem fer-te d'altaveu i que avui aquest acte el que vol precisament és sumar-nos a tots aquests reconeixements per celebrar aquest Dia de la Dona amb tota aquesta coherència, no només de dues grans arquitectes, sinó d'uns valors i uns missatges en els quals les dones i tots els homes, evidentment, també ens sentim molt interpel·lats al segle XXI. Així que moltíssimes gràcies i us passo la paraula. Bienvenue, Dominique, Anna.
Buenas tardes a todas y todos. Es un placer estar en Barcelona con ustedes. Gracias a Sandra y al COAC por su invitación. Gracias también a los equipos del pabellón Miss Anderu, a donde estaban yesterday, del Goethe-Institut y del Institut Français. Danke. Thank you, Valerie, for inviting me many times already, and also for putting the frugality in front of the Institut Français. Hablaba español cuando estaba en el instituto, pero eso fue hace mucho tiempo, 40 años. So, ahora lamentablemente tengo que continuar en inglés. What I wanted to share with you today is what is happy and creative frugality in architecture. And I begin with a picture from a wonderful building from Anna Heringer, and she will explain it afterwards. About 20 years ago, I discovered this sentence from Albert Einstein. It's not possible to solve problems with the way of thinking that created them. And for me, it was really a very important moment, because then I really understood that we have to change our mind, to change our practices. And this is also why one of the reasons why I launched this manifesto for a happy and creative frugality in architecture and planning in both urban and rural territories. And I did that in January 2018 with my very long friend, Philippe Madec, who is on the left. He's a very well-known architect in France, got many awards too. And on the right is Alain Bornarel. He's an engineer and also city planner. And he founded 25 years ago the first engineering office for environmental architecture, and is a big specialist for natural ventilation. He's 82 now, but he is still working a lot for our movement. We could have called the movement sobriety or sufficiency in architecture and planning, but we have chosen the word frugality because it comes from a Latin word, which is frugis, the fruit, and for us, frugality is the right use of the fruits of the earth. My grandparents were peasants in Lorraine, in the northeast of France, and I am still very connected with the ground. And I have a garden, and I work in the garden, and I pick up plants to make tea, and so I'm very connected with the earth. And if you don't like the word frugality, you can also use the word simplicity, and it has also to do with modesty and with humility. And I often say that both are not the most well-known qualities for architects. I can say that because I'm also architect. But I really think that the architects belonging to our movement for a happy and creative frugality are more modest than most of the architects. For us, frugality is both happy because it is based on a general impulse towards others, which means towards the new generation and also towards the people living in the global south. And it's also creative because it forces us to take other paths. Since many decades, the building industry is on this path, the concrete path, concrete, steel, and aluminium path, and we know it. We cannot grow indefinitely on a planet which is finite, and so we have to stop using too much concrete and too much non-renewable resources, and we have to replace them with bio-based and geo-based materials which are renewable. The principal idea, the principal philosophy is that if we consume less resources in the global north, people in the global south and also future generations will have more. And so, in fact, what we defend is peace and social justice. And we all know that we now really need a peaceful world. Since 8 years now, we have got 17,500 signatories from 92 countries, and every day there are 2, 3, 4 new signatories who are coming, and I hope that among you, a few will also sign our manifesto. Our manifesto is translated in Spanish, and also thanks to Valérie and the other Valérie, it's also translated in Catalan now, so you have no excuse not to read it. You can read it, and I hope you will have the desire afterwards to sign it, to film it. And all the people who have signed the manifesto are building a global network of professionals. But they are not only professionals. About 25% of the people who support us are from the civil society, which means we have a baker, we have a postman, we have secretaries, we have really all kinds of people. And what I really appreciate in the movement is that we have many, many young people. Here you see the repartition in Europe. And so there are 2 big points in Belgium and in Switzerland. And here you see that there are a lot of people in Bordeaux, in Lyon, in Nantes, in Rennes, and naturally also in Paris and in Lille. But it's really also everywhere, naturally a lot in Paris and around. So the frugality movement today, it's 17,500 signatories, but it's also about 40 local or thematic groups. The local group, you see where they are. You see this one. That's you. A few of you already belong to it, but I hope that more and more will also join. And we also have thematic groups, like one has frugal territories, more about urbanism and landscape planning. Then there is one about refurbishing. You will see that refurbishment is the first principle of frugal architecture. But we have also other thematic groups like engineering, and I try to create one about design, and this is very important because that creates within the big groups smaller groups who are really where the people are really working together. We organize every year the Rencontre de la Frugalité. This was the last one in last September in Saint-Ouen, near Paris. We had it's always 3 days, and we had more than 550 participants. What you see here is the Materia exhibition. I will come back to that. And we had a part of the Materia exhibition with all the finalists which are belonging to the frugality movement. And among the 40 finalists, we have about half of them who belong to the movement. Then they already made a big applause. We have books about the region, and in those books we show 20 to 28 projects from this region. We began with Grand Est, Nouvelle-Aquitaine, it's around Bordeaux, Occitanie around Toulouse, Provence-Alpes-Côte d'Azur around Marseille, Bretagne, Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes around Lyon, and Hauts-de-France around Lille. Each time you have in the cover a map of the region with the place where the projects are built, and here you have something very interesting, which is the map of the resources with natural materials. So sawmills and carriers, and also the places where you can buy straw or hemp and so on. This one has not many points, but in Brittany they were really working a lot, and they have about 150 points. Each time we build what I call convivial ecosystem. So, which means we look for partners, and then we ask the partners to pre-buy 100 or 200 issues of the book, and this is our economical model. So we work with partners. And if I explain that so in detail, it's because I would be very happy if one of the next book would be about Catalonia y Baleares. We are preparing nowadays one about the overseas regions of France, one about Centre Val de Loire, one about Bourgogne-Franche-Comté, and the Swiss group and the Belgian group are preparing their own book, and they will be presented at the next Rencontre de la Frugalité, and that will be next October in Mulhouse. And it will be international because Mulhouse is near Germany and near Switzerland, and so we will make an international meeting. We also make exhibitions out of the project presented in the book. We haven't made it in each region, but we have done it in Occitanie and also in Grand Est and also in Nouvelle-Aquitaine. And those exhibitions have a very nice, are traveling a lot. This one was already in 5 or 6 CAE, which are Centre d'Architecture, d'Urbanisme et d'Environnement. And I opened it in Chambre des Métiers de l'Artisanat, so craftsman chamber a few weeks ago in Cahors. So they are really shown not only in places where architects are, also in architecture schools, but also in places, in chambers for craftsmen. Out of our 7 books, we have done last year that here, the Journal des Possibles, which is a diary. It had such a big success that we are preparing one for the next rencontre. But we don't. We have printed 15,000 of issues of it, and we showed them. We gave them for free at the rencontre, but also at the Myers Fair. And it's a journal which is dedicated to the local authority officials and elected representatives. We will have in 2 weeks, 1.5 weeks now, we will have municipal elections. We are quite aware that it could go very right on the very strongly on the right, and that's why we try to show to the next teams what is possible to do for frugal and ecological architecture. These are 32 examples of refurbishment for public buildings and social housing. What are the 4 principles of frugal architecture? It's both a reduction for what is material, like reduction in the ground use, a reduction in the energy use, and a reduction in the use of industrial materials. And at the same time, we want growth in the human relationship between the architects and the clients and the users, and between architects and craftsmen, and that's why we call our movement or our frugality happy and creative. Let's go to a few examples. And we begin with frugality in ground use. Christine Lecomte was the past president of the French Architects Council, a good friend of mine, wrote a book about refurbishment to make the city on the city, and in this book she has this very nice sentence. To repair the city is to contribute to its magic. And I think it's something really very important. We all want to go to holidays in old cities, here in Spain or in Italy or also in France. And in the most of the new quartiers, district, we are not able to recreate the magic that have the old cities. So for us, the frugality in the ground use is reuse, repair, reduce, recycle, renovate, relocate. We could also find a few other like Serge Latouche, the economist of the degrowth, has done. And I think it's important. Just before we were at the House of the Women, so Madonna, La Donna, Galadonna, and it's just like that. So it's also reuse, repair, and when I mean repair, it's not only repair the building, but also repair the women who are coming there, and renovate, and perhaps also relocate. So I think it's an important message. In the books that you can that you will be able to look at after our conferences, you will see, for instance, this project. In this book each time, so each project has 2 pages. And on the pages, you have a small description, a short description. Then you have a technical sheet, technical data, where we don't speak about only the architects, but also all the craftsmen are listed. And there's also always a testimony by one of the actors, stakeholders of the building. And I really like very much what Michel Epinchard, the former mayor of this social cultural center, which was a restructuring of an urban wasteland, he said, the success of the project comes from our desire to take advantage of the qualities of the existing building and not demolish anything that we couldn't have rebuilt to the same quality. I think this is a very important sentence, because I think very often we just put down buildings and rebuild something which has really less quality. The frugal city for us is also green and slow, and children can play there freely. I think a good example for that is Tübingen, the Südstadt, and also the Quartier Vauban in Fribourg in Brisgau, so both in southwest Deutschland, in Baden-Württemberg, and as you see in the Quartier Vauban, the only tractors are the tractors of the children. I think we don't give enough space for children in our cities. And for me, the frugal city is also nutriting. In Paris, till the beginning of the 20th century, nearly all the food was coming from the small cities around Paris. And I find very interesting that those towns had their specialities because of the microclimate and because of the kind of soil that they had. In Arpajon, it was green beans. In Montmorency, it was the cherries. In Montreuil, it was the peaches. And so Paris was nutrited, or the people living in Paris could get food from the suburb. And we will be obliged to do it once more. And quite soon, we cannot afford to import all the things. And I love this project from my friends from Grand 8, who are also very active in the frugality movement. And they have built in Paris, in the 19th arrondissement, 2 buildings. Here it's 20 flats for people which were before living in the streets. I know it's only 20 and we would need 2,000, but it's a begin, and here it's a farm, and here it's a restaurant, and here it's the greenhouse that you see there. It's a wonderful place. If you go to Paris, just go to the Ferme du Rail. Now, frugality in energy. I guess that it is one that you know the best. especially also with passive house standard and so on. I wanted to show you that it's also possible to make to meet the requirements of a low carbon energy positive building, also when the building is from the 18th century. It was a mansion transformed into an office building, and without putting insulation in the wall, because outside it was preservation, and so it was not possible to change the facade, and inside they wanted to keep the walls. But they found a way of reducing the energy consumption. We, a very long time, over decades, we worked on solar energy. We were working with the strategy of the cold, I mean, to protect oneself against the cold, but now more and more we have to protect ourselves against the heat. And the two co-mediators of the Frugality group in Bordeaux are working. It's an architect and an engineer, and they work very often together, and they have made many wonderful, very interesting buildings, among them this boarding school. It is built, the walls are out of wood with straw bales. Those walls inside are out of rammed earth, and you see they have made this solar chimney so that the warm air go outside. So it's just natural ventilation, no climatization. And you can do that, so natural ventilation also in the middle of Paris. It's not the middle of Paris, but in Paris. It's also the 19th arrondissement. And this was done by my two friends with whom I wrote the manifesto, Alain and Philippe. Philippe as architect and Alain as engineers. And it's also refurbishment. There were two buildings. That it's for the city of Paris. There is on the left a media library, and on the right a house of refugees. And in between, Philippe has designed this combination out of wood and earth, which is closed but not heated. Only the two buildings are heated. That's the inside of the building. The structure is out of wood, and here this is earth, prefabricated element out of poured earth. So they have poured it flat, and then they brought it here and put it vertically. Here you see we are inside this element which is connecting the two buildings. And so it was an existing building, but Alain and Philippe have made a natural ventilation, and they have created a system. You see the air comes here. And also they have made those small elements that you see here, so you can open it. And this is for the so-called in French surventilation nocturne, so over ventilation or night oven ventilation, which means it's protected so that nobody can come inside, and also not a bird or anything. So here you see it outside, and so in the evening they open all of them, and then they have a cross ventilation. So it's also possible in Paris to do. In Paris, for a big building, to do natural ventilation. In France, we also have a few regions in tropical climate, like La Réunion. The architects in La Réunion are very committed to find frugal solutions. There's also a very important group there, and this is a mediathèque, so also media library, which is working only with natural ventilation. Alain Bornarel was once more the engineer who did that. You see there is a chimney in the middle and also cross ventilation. I took the pictures myself. I was there. Outside it was more than 40 degrees, and inside it was about 25 without any climatization. Then frugality. Oh, no, this is frugality in material. Energy for heating and cooling is just the upper part of the iceberg. And the biggest part, the bigger part of the energy consumption is the energy for the construction. You probably know that sand and gravel are getting very rare, and they are even, I don't know if it is also the case in Spain, but I know that in Morocco, where I used to teach, there are beaches which have disappeared because they have taken all the sand to build buildings among the sea, and the production of cement and reinforced concrete consumes a large amount of energy, and it accounts for around 8% of the CO2 emissions, and is thus partly responsible for climate change. I have not invented the 8%. Even Lafarge says that it's 8%. There are people speaking from 9%. It's also possible. But anyway, it's about twice as much, or 2 times the flight transportation, so the plane transportation. So you see, it's something very important. And I don't say that concrete is a bad material. I think that it is a precious material that we should only use where it is absolutely needed, and for foundations or for very big structures. And for the rest, we should use other materials. And fortunately, they are other possibilities, alternatives. One is reuse. So before I told you that we began with reuse of existing building. This is what they have done here. There was a house, they have transformed it, and here they have built a new part, here with old stones, and here also the windows where we used windows, and you see the result is quite nice. Then also in Paris, you can make reuse or building with reused materials. You perhaps remember my friends from Grand 8 who made the Ferme du Rail. They are also the architects of Les Canaux, also in the same arrondissement in Paris. And it's with sails from boat. They have used sails from boat for the solar protection. The flooring is recycled cobblestone from streets in Paris. The parquet flooring and sunshades are from recycled window frames. So really, there are very many possibilities. We have also bio-based materials like wood, straw, hemp, and reed here, and bamboo in the global south. Here, an example where you see frugality in ground because it is multifunctional, in process because of the short supply chain, and material because it is local Douglas fir and black pine. This low carbon project strengthens the local economy. The black pine cut from the forest of Annecy, which is a small city, was transformed into siding boards at a nearby sawmill, and the waste was processed in the nearby village. This project has also, this one is made by the moderator, the creator of the Frugalitat group in Nancy. And for this structure, he could have used glue lamp, but he decided to use timber truss beams made from massive wood, all the same section, and he bought them in a nearby sawmill. Naturally, we can also insulate with something else than the petrochemical insulation. This is straw insulation. This is also near Paris, and they are, I would say, about 100 schools, buildings, and sport buildings insulated with straw in and around Paris, because in and around Paris we have a lot of straw, because it is a byproduct of wheat, of the growing of wheat. In this case, it is load-bearing straw bales. The straw bales are a little bit bigger, but they can be load-bearing on 2 levels. It's also near Paris. And you can even go quite high. This is a social residence in Saint-Dié-des-Vosges, in northeast of France, and the same team, the same social firm with the same architects and the same energy engineer have built many buildings since 15 years, always with the same, straw insulation, always with passive house standard, and now they have just finished this one with 12 levels. Mcrete is also an alternative material for insulation, for renovation of 18th century building in Paris, so from the Haussmann architecture. People can do it by hand, but it is quite. So this was at the beginning, about 10 years ago, but now they use projection. And hempcrete, you can use it as well for refurbishment, which it is very good for refurbishment, but also this 8-story high residential building is also made out of hempcrete. Hempcrete cannot be load-bearing. You always need a structure out of wood. Naturally, there are also geo-based materials, stone and earth. And I will speak about earth, but I wanted to show you a project out of stone, also made by the Studio Lada, Christophe Aubertin, who are working in, we are very strongly involved in the Frugalitat group in Nancy. A wonderful building with a short supply chain, 600 tons of stone coming from nearby, and the wood is from the Vosges. Here you see the stone, how the Compagnons du Devoir et du Tour de France have done it, so very good craftsmen. And this building is one of the finalists of the Materia Award, and was in the Materia exhibition, which will come soon to the Institut Français. You see the panels and also the prototypes, and Materia shows projects out of stone, earth, and fibers like straw or hempcrete. The Materia was the third award plus exhibition plus book that we have done in the past 10 years with my friend from Amaco and Les Grands Ateliers, and especially Laetitia Fontaine, who will be here at the 21st of April, and I really invite you to come because Laetitia is a wonderful woman who will show you what is possible to do with alternative materials. I think that this sentence, think global, act local, is one of the most important sentences at the end of the 20th century, but also for today. And as you see, this is also what we do at the Frugality movement. On one side, we make regional books to enhance the regional project, and we also make material which are worldwide exhibitions and books to show that it's happening, something new is happening everywhere. So frugality through process, for the end, we want both to promote local resources and to promote regional know-how, regional craftsmen. To promote manual work, I'm very convinced that the hand speaks as directly to the brain as the brain speaks to the hand, and this is why I'm so near to the craftsmen. And promoting local resources is also first to know what are the resources and how we can use them. This is sourcing. I think that now most of the architects working or belonging to the frugality movement makes this kind of drawing for the building. So they show which materials they use, and sometimes even where those materials come from. What I also wanted to share with you at the end is that so when I got 60 years old, it was 5 years ago, I wanted to make, or I decided to make a present to my gray self and to begin a thesis, a PhD. I do it in Toulouse, and the question is, how can we assess the impact of a convivial ecosystem, so what I call a convivial ecosystem, between the stakeholders of a frugal building on the use of minimally processed bio-based and geo-based local materials. I decided that there are 4 families, the owners and the users and the group of architects, engineers, and builders and facilitators. And I have developed a method that I try in different buildings. I can explain you once more in detail, perhaps when I will be ready with my PhD, I hope next year. What is a convivial ecosystem? At this stage of my thesis project, it is the establishment of relationship of trust based on shared values between the actors, all the actors involved in the project. Then the implementation of participatory design and construction methods, and then collective risk-taking in the context of experimentation. And I think this is also what you do, Anna. How to become modern and to return to sources, how to revive an old dormant civilization and take part in universal civilization, asked Paul Ricoeur, the French philosopher. I think, or we think at the frugality movement, that it is by inventing a new vernacular, and Anna's work is a wonderful example of the happy and creative result, the happy and creative frugality. And this is what we try to write and to explain in our common book that you can find in the library, which is under our feet. And now, Anna, the stage is yours. Did I give you? Yeah, so you can. Yeah.
I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me and for bringing me all the institutes that were involved. We had a fantastic day, like recharging inspirations and beauty at the Gaudi buildings, and my heart is still filled with the beauty of your city. Architecture is a tool to improve lives. That is what I firmly believe in, although I'm very much aware that we do a lot of the opposite, that we contribute to climate change massively because of the huge resources that we use, and that we often are in the service of a building industry that is not socially minded, but supporting the rich. But I'm a stubborn idealist. I really believe that we can do better with our profession, and that we can build buildings and at the same time can build up communities and do this in harmony with nature. I did a test with my students from ETH a couple of years ago, and we took them. It was the end of October. It was really cold. It was still a frost on the ground in 3 p.m. in the afternoon, and we surprised the group with the fact that we had not booked any hut or accommodation for the night, and it was the challenge for the future architects to build a shelter with whatever they could find. It was quite challenging. It was really cold. We also did it. But it was a great learning experience, that there are so many resources given by nature for free, and all that we need is the sensitivity to see those resources and the creativity to use them. And I also had a great learning experience. I had the privilege to spend a year in Bangladesh when I was 19 years old, right after school. And what I learned there from the local NGO Deepshika was that the best strategy for really good development is always to look at the resources you have in your surrounding, within you, in your network, and to do something out of it, to act out of those resources, and not depending on external factors, because that is just making you vulnerable and less strong in the end. And I tried to transfer this kind of philosophy then 7 years later in my diploma project in a school for that village in Rudapur. And in terms of materials, I didn't have to look far. They were right under my feet, the mud, the dirt, or earth, however you call it, and the bamboo that was growing all around. And as energy source, it was people. And that was shortly before that's how we started to use the building already. Doors were not there, but in that climate, it was not that important. But it was, it is a building that is really built load-bearing with earth and straw walls. There's no cement added, only in the foundation, and the top is the bamboo. And I wanted to prove with that building that you cannot just, when people think of mud houses, they think of these small, dark huts that look a bit shabby. And I wanted to prove, you can have large structures, you can have public buildings also with that kind of materials. And I had a great team around me, also because it was my diploma project. I didn't really know how to build, so I had a partner for the realization, Eike Roswag, and craftsmen, of course, from the village, and also some from Bavaria. We kept the tradition to sit on the ground floor, which is tradition in Rudapur, and through this little hole in the back of the back wall, you come into the caves. And the school is a little bit Montessori, but they have their own philosophy, and the different pace of children is respected. And there are always some that are fast in learning, and then they getting uneasy and restless, and then the other ones think, I'm taking so long and getting nervous. So instead of that, they can just grab a book and do their own work, and they also obviously use it for playing, and also meditate a lot in that school. And I was trying, to be very, very archaic and basic with the typologies that I used in the school. And I was, the brief of the client was a school building where the kids go to every day with joy, and they're excited to go to school. And I thought, okay, what were the spaces that I loved when I was a kid? And I think that everyone can refer to that image that is somehow, of course, the mother womb, but it is also could be, under a table with tablecloths, and then you're protected, but you hear everything that's going on, or you're sitting in the crown of a tree where the leaves protect you, but you have the full overview of what's going on, and that's sort of the same situation here. They are protected, but they always have the connection to the classroom, so there's always the connection still to the group. And the top floor is the opposite, is the overview to the village, and it's more the treehouse effect, and it's obviously the element is bamboo. And this kind of elements with the saris on the ceilings is some, things that you collect when you walk through the village. You see the saris for hanging, for drying, and you see the mud walls that are shaped by hand. So it's just, you collect all this kind of inspiration and use it in a little bit different way. What I'm most happy about of that building is that we could include the children in the building process. In the morning they had normal classes, but in the afternoon they have a lot of creative classes, and instead of having pottery, they had pottery in a slightly bigger scale. And you cannot do that with every building material. I mean, so many building materials that are toxic, so many building materials you need sophisticated tools that could harm you. But with mud, you can also use only your hands, so there is not much danger for getting harmed. And we all know how beautiful it feels when you have your hands in the earth. And it was really great for the kids that they were able to do some real work. I mean, it was physically not too demanding, obviously not, but it was real useful work. And I think everyone wants to be needed, and we know it when children play. I mean, yes, they can play in the plastic kitchen, but it's much more exciting if they can be part of the real cooking. So the same thing here, they were part of the real construction site, and I think you can all imagine how it feels when you're standing as a small girl in front of the school, and I did this with my muscles and the dirt underneath my feet. That is just adding so much to the confidence and trust in your own potentials and feelings, and obviously also in the group, because you're never built alone, and also in the local materials that are usually regarded as poor and vulnerable and not worthy. And the building is now 20 years old, and it's really aging well, and people keep it really in super good shape, and it's very much loved. Local materials, local energy, and global, especially local energy in terms of craftsmanship. I mean, when we think of energy sources, we think of oil, gas, sun, wind, but we forget that each and every one is a source of energy too, with craftsmanship. Unfortunately, this kind of energy source is highly taxed, so it's expensive, but I firmly believe we have to change that system, because human beings needs to be affordable again. And then global knowledge, global creativity. That's the nice thing, that now with all the tools that we have, we can access the knowledge from wherever we are on the planet. And then it's the interesting thing how to bring it down to the local conditions and find real local solutions. You might think, that might be working in a small remote village in Bangladesh, but the reality of the cities looks rather like this. How is it possible in dense urban spaces? Well, it is possible. This is the city of Shibam, built 500 years ago. So if this was 500 years ago and it was possible, of course it's possible that we do this again today with all the accumulated knowledge and know-how and tools and technologies that we have. And how does it look like? So this is, I think, the most modern factory of earth and elements, of rammed earth, of Martin Rauch in Vorarlberg in Austria. So he gets the excavation material from the region inside, and then rams with a machine, this kind of, still a lot of craftsmanship involved, a long rammed earth wall, cuts it into pieces, and then you can mount these pieces like big Lego blocks on top of each other for multi-story and load building bearing buildings. And of course you could also produce adobe bricks, on-fire clay bricks, clay plasterings, but my dream is really to have those kind of factories in every larger community or region, so that really the excavation material from all the places come inside and come out as building components. I use this technique as well in my latest structure, the Campus St. Michael in Germany, it's all made with this kind of blocks, but in the end you retouch it and with lots of craftsmanship, and it looks like a completely monolithic wall without any iron in it. So yes, you can build also large structures, and that's how it looks inside. Hello, Stella. So, and it's also, you know, Earth has this kind of beautiful archaic notion and of protection. It's Mother Earth, so it's a very warm atmosphere, and still this is archaic power that is really beautiful to experience. What is important to say here, you know, mud is aging. You see traces of erosion on the weather side, and that there's a lot of fake rammed earth right now going on in the internet and so on Instagram. You see a lot of fake rammed earth, but it is important to know that rammed earth needs to age, and also it's perfectly fine for rammed earth building to be exposed to weather. And this is a really harsh weather facade, and it works in Switzerland, it works in Austria, and works in Germany in cold and rainy climates. So it's absolutely fine to use it without any cement or stabilizers added or any coating. It's just, you know, a psychological thing for us to allow the aging of buildings. What I learned from the Global South, I think the favorite thing that I learned, besides, you know, using local materials and local resources, is the power of the process. And everyone has it as part of our DNA, human DNA, that the urge of building. I think there's no one in this audience who didn't play building as a child with cartons, with blankets, branches. It's just a natural thing. Just as animals build their nests, human beings also want to build it. It's just a human urge. So what we don't allow this anymore in our construction site. Usually we allow participation in decision making, but not so much in the process. And that, I think, is giving away a huge chance, because when, you know, this was, for example, one thing that we're trying in every building to include participation, physical participation on the construction site, and that just bonds people so much together, and also to the building. You know, a part of your energy is inserted there, and you feel it. And when you drink your coffee afterwards in a structure that you built in cold in November, where it was raining and it was really damn cold, but you remember you have the shared memories, and it really bonds you together. I'm also building, this is for the Catholic Church. I'm also building now for the Catholic Church a campus in Ghana, and the engineer Zigato was there and visited the construction site, and it was like, for him, it was like, yeah, that's fair. You know, it's not just, you know, mud for Africa and concrete for Europe or the States or whatever. No, it's, you know, we have one planet with finite resources, and we are one global family, and we need to share these things, and we have no right to use more than we actually absolutely need, and we can't use more that is, it's still keeping the fragile ecological balance alive. So this is the campus that I got this one as a design from Ghana, from colleagues there, and this is how campuses are built. It's just, you know, you see that built in many regions, in many places. And the reality is, you know, you have this total beautiful game out of round huts, squared ones, beautiful courtyard situations, and surrounding walls that form niches, and all of those things. And then they build this kind of things. And this is still obviously, this has nothing to do with the culture there. This is obviously still left from colonial times, very dominant. And the basic is you know, control, discipline. It's the Roman military camp in a way. And it's so sad, because knowledge and wisdom has been always transmitted in an oral way in this context. So where do you have storytelling in a campus like this? It's just simply impossible. So I kind of cut this out in clay, and then with an intuitive clay storming process, I tried to bring in all this courtyard and niches that I found in the vernacular architecture, and made this plan out of it. where you find a lot of cozy corners where you can do your storytelling. And this is, for example, one of those kind of pockets of little courtyards with even more niches where you can sit and have a chat and tell your stories. This is a drone photo, and it shows how we work with materiality. So this is the excavation of a foundation for that building or for a new building. So we take the material, mix it here with water, and then it's dried. The bricks are dried out here, and then we just use it for construction. So it's a totally enclosed and small circularity. And another technique that we use is the Autores technique, where you just add layer by layer. And what I did is, obviously, I'm a European architect. I designed in my drawings that the windows were squared. But I wanted to have women on the site. It was like non-negotiable, and was hard to get through. But finally, I got the women on the site, and then they said, "Well, we can plaster, but we cannot plaster with trowels and tools." I said, "Fine, just use your traditional technique." And when they use their hands, they don't do it like this. It would be completely unnatural. What they do is then, they plaster like this, and then the whole facade becomes like a completely different thing. And that's the beauty of co-creation. It's much more authentic than I could have ever designed that on a drawing board or on a computer in Germany. And that is really for me also the fascinating thing, that how building become their own creature in a way, without you maybe put some basic things in, but the whole thing, everyone is involved and everyone is shaping that building. And it has been touched so many times by the hands, and you feel that, you really feel that. And no AI can produce that level of authenticity, and no 3D plotter can create this shared memories that we have on our sites like that. The process is just as important as the outcome. As part of our Laufen Manifesto, where Dominique was also one of the co-authors in the last project I want to share, because we visited Sagrada Familia today. It was really moving. I was mostly astonished by this courage and also this power of enthusiasm that Gaudi must have had to convince people to not just build for their generation, but for starting something and knowing you will never see the result. I mean, in our society, we always want to see the result, and as fast as possible. And to have this kind of enthusiasm spreading to so many people to convince, no, we take something on where we know we cannot see the result. This is amazing. So this was a cathedral that had the 1,000-year-old birthday in Germany, in Worms. And Martin Rauch and me, we were invited to make a competition for an altar. And the thing was, the church had a beautiful altar from Balthasar Neumann, which is our famous Baroque architect. So what do you put in front of Balthasar Neumann? That was the difficult question. And so every priest was kind of putting the load of decision making to the next one, and no one dared to do it. But for the community were thinking, okay, we need a gift for the 1,000-year-old. I mean, for the birthday of the occasion of the birthday, and they said, okay, our altar would be the perfect gift for the church. So they made this competition, and all the other people that were invited, the sculptors, made beautiful objects or designed beautiful objects, and they were meant to be produced and then brought into the building as a ready-made object. And Martin and me, we said, we don't propose that. We propose we come with tools. And that's what we did. So we came with tools, we brought the local earth in, and then we invited the community to ram. And it was amazing. It worked just as much as in Bangladesh. People were extremely proud. This woman came every day in high heels, an open peep toe, but she was totally excited in it. And it's like, you know, the choir was there, the altar boys and girls were there, the monks were there and reciting in Latin while they were ramming it. It was like it was an amazing community feeling. And we had the idea, you know, or the concept to bring in the layers, in the different layers of the earth, historic elements from Worms, like stones from the Roman Empire, and other cathedrals were sending some pieces. But already on the second day, people started to bring their own personal objects. So the amulet of the grandmother, an important letter to them, then newspaper article about events the community was proud of, like the postcards from, you know, it was amazing. The best honey, the best wine of the region, everything came in. And the kids were there, you know, they were mixing the mud with their hands and really enjoying it. And then they wanted to have pink glitter in the altar. The priest was not entirely convinced and amused about the fact. He was like really slightly panicked that in front of Baltina's son, you have done the pink glitter, but it was only a small part. Yeah, and then the moment came when kind of the chicken came out of the shell, and it was like, yeah, it was amazing. You see, Dominique? So we just couldn't let go of our baby. I mean, it was really like our energy was in there, and it was like we had so much connection to that thing. And what I learned in working in Ghana, for example, they're talking about charged objects. So you can have empty objects that have no soul, and then you can have charged objects where they have power. And it is, how do you charge buildings that they become a home and not just, a shell? And I think one very important way is really to have this physical participation in the buildings. And we all know, that nowadays, I mean, in the past we came together as communities and helped building up cathedrals or schools, and most importantly, we helped building each other's homes. So when we were walking through our neighborhood, I just imagine, we were thinking, I helped lifting that beam in that house, and here I painted that door, and here I made the kitchen for the lunch, the soup for the lunch break. So everyone was somehow participating, because you cannot build a house alone. You always need to take turns and help each other. And I think that is such a bonding force and social force within a community that we don't have these days anymore. And through the process, a good process of architecture and building, we can bring this power back. And I think it would do our society really good to, stand in front of an object or a wall or a building in the end of the day and, we did this together. And I think this is what we're really missing. And this picture is very symbolic to me, for our society at the moment, with all the gold and the marble and the precious materials in the background. If we're honest, we don't really lack material things. What we lack is good relationships amongst each other, and then also something, that we share a purpose, and we share an aim that we all, put our forces in. And I think that, we have to learn this from the Global South, that we bring back the power of the process. I don't know why some sentences get stuck in our collective brains. I mean, I don't know, but for me, it was like this form follows function was really stuck every time when I started designing. Form follows function was there, and it was never questioned. But we cannot solve these huge problems that we have and challenges that we have at the moment with the climate change, the growing social injustice. We cannot solve this by just focusing only on function. It's impossible. And what I experience a lot in working in Europe, that we base so many decisions on fear. And who wants to live in buildings that are based on the notion of fear, or neighborhoods that are based on the notion of fear? That's not a good future scenario. And I think there is only one thing or one emotion that is stronger than fear, and that is love. And when we start taking our decisions out of love towards others and towards our beautiful planet, then sustainability happens in a completely natural way. So I hope we exchange this old sentence of form follows function into form follows love. Thank you. Thank you.
Today, this week, is the week of the women. And so for the conclusion, we would like to share with you a few sentences of our book, Form Follows Love. This chapter is called True Female Power. We dedicate the following sentences especially to women architects, to female students, and to all the women in this assembly, but I think that men will also find them relevant. In this book, which we wrote together, Anna speaks in the first person, but you will hear both of our voices.
The egoistical competition of the construction sector was very hard for me to come to terms with. This competitive mentality still prevails so strongly amongst architects as well, and it's really killing me. What a parade of egos most of the time. The worst thing is how well it still works. The bigger the ego, the more quirks a person has, the more they are considered genius and the more admirers they find. And of course, patriarchal old boys club strategies to hoist each other are depressingly effective. As a woman, you're often simply left out. There's only one thing that helps: we women must stick together too, and leave no space for jealousy or competition. Showing solidarity is the best way to ensure we get a seat at the table. We definitely need more diversity.
Anna, what have you learned from other women architects, like our French friend, common friend, Françoise-Hélène Jourda, but also Marina Tabassum from Bangladesh, or Anupama Kundo from India, Xu Tiantan from China, and Toshiko Mori from Japan and the US.
I have definitely noticed in myself that the more I focus on all the injustices I often encounter as a female architect in my everyday life, the angrier I get. And then I waste so much energy just by getting angry. And in the end, that doesn't help at all. Addressing where things go wrong and when they go wrong is important. But it's even more important to me now to support young female colleagues. There are a few tips that I give myself every now and then, and that I would like to share with other female architects. First of all, don't waste time complaining, because it doesn't help. Trust yourself with leadership. Yes, we are worthy of being in the front row, and encourage each other and forget competition. Don't copy male behaviors. Focus on what you as a woman can contribute to what is currently lacking in society. In that way, the presence of women becomes a real benefit for all, and we can work together in a complementary and appreciative team.
How can we introduce more diversity into architecture and give women a greater role in this field, which is still dominated by men?
Even more important to me than increasing the number of female architects is how we can integrate more female qualities in architecture and into architectural education. I assume that we all carry both masculine and feminine elements within us, and depending on the unique selves we have within, lean in a particular direction. I would like so much that the predominance of male behaviors is replaced with more inclusive varieties, and that we might find a balance that integrates the feminine as well. The male-dominated approach hasn't just led us towards the over-exploitation of resources and corresponding climate emergency, but also towards social injustice through a lack of empathy and emphasis on results over processes. The constant strive for height, size, efficiency, control, and rationalization, but also the fascination for the novelty and the excessive use of technology are typically male characteristics, at least for me. It must be brought into a healthy balance with intuition, empathy, care, and compassion for fellow human beings and nature.
Once more, form follows love. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions,
sure.
yes.
Anna, you talk about Gaudí, that this energy that he's constructing, not expecting to see the final result because they will see in many, many years later. Mm-hmm. But Gaudí used always to say that he was very lucky because his client is not in a hurry.
I like that one.
We visited, after the Sagrada Familia, we visited the Casa Batlló, and I was very astonished to see that, in fact, many things answers to our 4 principles of the frugality. First, the frugality in the use of ground, because the Casa Batlló is not a new building, but the refurbishment of a building. Then, concerning the frugality in energy, we have seen that there were many places where you could open the wall, the wood elements, for cross ventilation. And then concerning the materials, we have also seen that many of the materials were coming from the surrounding of Barcelona. So somewhere Gaudí was belonging to the frugal community without knowing that. Are there any other questions?
Thank you, Anna and Dominique, for these very inspiring examples. And a question that is very obvious is that now we have seen many examples, basically, on the global south from Anna, this very human and respectful architecture. But we all know that there it's easier because norms, permits, so there is more flexibility. And the context in Europe is very difficult, very different from that. And what we face here, so we have many Catalan architects willing to innovate, very sensitive to doing this paradigm shift, but somehow they find barrier after barrier and complications. And we have the feeling that innovation falls under the expenses of a lot of effort, and even putting money from their own pockets, from very young architects or very small studios. So now that you're based in Europe, which would be the recommendation or your lessons learned from trying to replicate and transfer this knowledge that you could gather in the global south to make that this is the norm, not the exception in the north?
Yeah, I mean, in Traunstein in Germany, I just built this large structure, and it was an enormous effort to do so, and I also didn't get, the 100% that I wanted, but I got, a part of it is really all load-bearing earth, like fully load-bearing, fully exposed to weather, and it works. And I think, right now the problem is that we don't have real costs on materials. When we buy a bag of cement or a kilo of steel, then we don't pay for the carbon emissions that it's caused. We don't pay, how easy it's to be recycled, how much quality loss is in recycling, how much energy I have to add if I want to get the same quality again, what it does to the environment when we, turn the building down, how healthy it is for for people to live in. All these costs are real costs. And now we just shifted to the future generation and the global society. And these costs need to be, included when we buy the material. But these policies, we have to ask for those policies. We have to demand it. The good thing is that our economic system is not a force of nature. It can be changed. And but in the meantime, I think, like in Traunstein, at one point we also couldn't. It was impossible to afford the entire structure, so we just decreased the volume, and we just went through every square meter. Is it really necessary? And we could reduce quite a lot, and then it was possible again. So I think that is, and there was a lot of room for, decreasing this thing, because, there was always the client would say, I want to be on the safe side. I don't want to decide now how I'm using the space, so let's make it a bit bigger. And it was just, it was partially it was laziness, partially it was just fear, it couldn't be enough. It turns out it is enough. but this kind of process, it just having another layer of tracing paper and do another designed to make it smaller, it's an effort. But reducing the volume helps a lot in reducing the costs. So it is possible.
There was also this other anecdote in Traunstein concerning the ceiling and also the different layers. With the acoustic, that you could make a deal between the users.
That was in the timber structure. Yeah, but that was not with the costs. That was.
Yes, but it was also. I like the idea because you said we would have had to add another material to answer
just to leave out some chemicals, leave out some materials, and say, okay, maybe the acoustic is not that perfect, but we just train to be empathic to others and say, okay, we're just trying not to turn on the music extremely loud in the evening, and just there's also a lot of things that can be reduced if we just are a bit more empathic towards each other.
I just want to add something of what you said, Dominique, about map of frugality. Mm-hmm. We will have very soon a frugal
stand
map.
Up and say that to the audience.
Sorry. You want me to stand up, really?
Yes,
no, we'll
sure.
have soon the map of frugality in Catalonia and Baleares, thanks to the involvement of Coquet-Cloret. At the ETSAV, a group of students are working on that. We'll present 90 projects in Catalonia and in the Iceland, and also a lot of different initiatives like enterprises who are building new materials. In English, I can't. Let's go in Spanish. So 90 projects, but also reciclaje, todas las cuestiones del reuso, y todo una map también, una carta muy interesante porque están buscando e intentando localizar todos los recursos que podemos tener en este territorio. So, el 21 of April at the Institut Français, they will present it. You're more than welcome.
Bueno, y sobre todo también que todo este trabajo de la frugalidad se está trabajando con la agrupación de AUS, Arquitectos y Sostenibilidad, que está aquí Greta Tresserra, su presidenta, Àngels Castellarnau, que es la arquitecta que está ido coordinando con Dominique todo el trabajo, que disculpar que no lo he dicho a la presentación, y realmente es un trabajo en equipo, ¿no? Con Coquet-Claret en la Escuela de Arquitectura del Vallès, que estamos trabajando. Y bueno, congratulations, it is a very, very session, inspiration, and we will continue. And thank you very much all for are here. Thank you.
Yeah, muchas gracias, Sandra. And I'll come back when the book will be finished. Yeah, to sign up the book.